Bob Dylan's famous song, "The Times They Are A-Changing," in many ways sums up the last few decades, and my guess is he may not have realised just how much the times would change in the 55 years since he wrote it. Change is nothing new, ever present, and often faster than many people can cope with. For me, I guess to an extent I thrive on change, whether that's change of place, although having moved 22 times in my life, the last one being just last June, it does get a bit wearing. A change of job status. I moved on from paid employment just over a year ago. I thoroughly enjoyed my job, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this next stage of life also. Or a change in being the person I am, which is something I've actively cultivated at several points in my life too. Many people, of course, do find change very difficult, be they relatively minor ones to routine or a process by which a particular job is done, or larger scale changes can be also difficult, whether it's a change of manager or minister, a change in family life due to bereavement or marriage, or in health due to accident, diagnosis, or even recovery. We also live in a world where there's been massive change in these last few years. There's been global economic and political change, and the awareness of climate change. The way we communicate has changed with social media, email, the internet, smartphones often replacing talking face to face. There have been changes in family and relationships, increased numbers of blended families, changes in the nature of marriage, civil partnership, cohabitation, and the growth of virtual internet relationships and people who have no offline friends. The world is also a very different place in relation to attitudes towards gender and sexuality. For many, gone is the job for life, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday working pattern. Workplaces have a long hours culture and a target-driven, unstable environments. For many people, our 24/7 culture has overtaken the value that Sundays used to have. There's also been medical advances and increased awareness of mental ill health in particular. People are living longer, and that's brought not only increased care demands, but also increased activity in older people and changes in attitude towards retirement and death. And of course, at the moment, significant aspects of what we understand as normal life are changing and being forced to change as a result of coronavirus. These are not just changing times, but very unsettling times. People are afraid and anxious, and it is within that as Christians we can be wise stewards, but also proclaim a message of love, not fear. Even churches are changing. At last, I hear some of you cry. But alongside struggling churches, particularly in rural areas, there's been a growth of church plants and fresh expressions such as Messy Church, within which we see church engaging where people actually are. Alongside all that, we live in a multi-faith community and different interpretations of the word spirituality. David Bowie wrote, "Changes, turn and face the strange." Part of the difficulty in turning to face the strange is that while the world around us changes at a very fast rate, as human beings we change much more slowly, rather like a pair of cogwheels that can't interlock properly. One's going too fast for the other. This mismatch is often due to the fact that we go through life being shaped by events and other people. The core characteristics of who we are as individuals can take years to develop. It takes time to change. You might like to think back about how your life has changed in the last 5, 10, 20 years, and how it might change in the next 5, 10 or 20. What changes are you facing at this precise moment? Do you turn and face the strange, or just keep looking in the usual direction and avoid it? Change happens when something starts or stops, or one thing stops and another thing starts in its place. One job ends and another begins, or doesn't. We move from one home to another. But while change can take place overnight, it is the transition that often takes the time. Now, transition is the aspect of internal adjustment to change. Transition is intimately connected with the sense of who we are, where we belong, within such times of change. Now, we can plan and organise the practical aspects of change, but managing the process of transition is much more difficult. Even in the most positive and exciting changes, such as the birth of a child, getting married, beginning a new job, becoming a Christian, it is common for people to experience periods of depression or stress, feelings of loss, or to have relationship problems in the process of such change and transition. Now, whether the change is of our own choice or not, it's often the waiting and the uncertainty of the prospect of that change which is the most difficult characteristic of this unsettling companion. The bigger picture becomes blurred as we focus on the detail. We like to know where we stand. And in such times of difficult waiting, it is natural to worry about what it is that we're waiting for, or waiting to happen or not happen, to worry about the consequences. We might still be able to recognise God's presence in such times and to trust God in them, but such is the nature of waiting that anxiety means we can easily lose sight of both. But such anxiety is not a sign of failure or that you're lacking faith and trust. God understands our difficulties and our feelings. One only has to remember the sweat and tears shed by Jesus in the garden at Gethsemane as he waited to be arrested and crucified. Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done. Jesus experienced the anxiety of waiting. He asked God to remove it. And it could be argued that God did not. Jesus could have decided to run away from the garden, to use his miraculous skills to escape from the soldiers, or when Simon of Cyrene came to help carry the cross, Jesus could have left him with it and disappeared into the crowd. These times of waiting and anxiety are a part of our human existence, and we too want to run away from them at times, don't we? You may like to reflect on some of your experience of change. Which changes did you handle well? What did you learn from those times of change? Maybe that you're experiencing change or transition at the moment, or the prospect of it. What helps? What do you need to do to help manage that transition and the change that is coming about?